Are you a current or future physician assistant wanting to learn more about finances? Then join me on this journey to become a PA the FI way. Hi, my name is Kat, and I'm a practicing certified physician assistant who will be your host. It took me 5 years after I started practicing medicine as a PA to thoroughly dive into my personal finances after I discovered the concept of financial independence. I want to use what I have learned to help you avoid some of the financial mistakes that I have made while sharing some of the financial wins that I have had along the way. Join me as we discuss financial strategies to guide you to becoming a physician assistant on the way to financial independence. Before we dive in, a quick word from our sponsor. You've probably heard of the AAPA Salary Report, but did you know it's the most comprehensive PA salary resource on the market? That's because it's not just a list of PA salaries. It's an interactive tool that allows you to quickly compare salaries and bonuses across states, specialties, settings, years of experience, even cost of living. Just a few clicks and your data is ready to print and share with your employer. See how your salary stacks up. The AAPA Salary Report is available now at aapa.org. Now back to the show. Welcome back to PA the FI Way, the show where I teach PAs how to take control of their money so that they can buy back their time and have the option to work less. In today's episode, we're going to talk about cost of living versus salary and why your high pay might actually be misleading. Let's start by comparing two different PAs. One PA is making $150,000 per year, and another is making $130,000 per year. Most would assume that the first one is absolutely doing better financially. I mean, why not? She's making $20,000 more than the other PA. But what if I told you that the opposite is often actually true? I've seen this play out over and over again. PAs can chase higher salaries, taking jobs that look better on paper, only to feel just as stuck, just as stressed, and sometimes even worse financially, because the number on your paycheck doesn't tell the full story. Today, we're talking about one of the most misleading things in your career, your salary, and more importantly, how cost of living quietly and dramatically changes what that number actually means for you and your life. Because if you've ever thought, I make good money, so why does it feel tight? This episode is going to give you a completely different way to think about your income, your job, and your path to financial independence. So let's talk about why high income does not always for sure mean financial progress. We overvalue the salary number because it's the most visible metric. It's what most people compare, and it can feel like success if it's a good number. But let's break it down further. Your salary, your total number of your income, does not take into consideration your cost of living adjustments. Those are things that affect you where you live. For example, your taxes, your housing costs, childcare, commuting, and lifestyle inflation. A high salary in a high cost area can leave you with less margin than a lower salary in a lower cost area. Now let's break this down and make it more practical. Let's take the first PA. She was making $150,000. But it was in a high cost of living city in California. Whereas the second PA was making $130,000, but she lives in a lower cost of living place somewhere in the Midwest. With the first PA, her mortgage or rent, no matter what she decides to use for her housing, is very likely incredibly high. Now, there are absolutely ways to help lower that cost. For example, perhaps she has roommates, or perhaps she does house hacking, where she rents out a portion of her house, a bedroom, either a unit or a level of her house, and earns income that way. But generally, higher cost of living places, housing is incredibly high compared to lower cost of living places. Additionally, higher cost of living states often have higher taxes for their state as well. Even things like food can be way more expensive. Transportation could be expensive. Or even if transportation is not more expensive for money, it could be more expensive for your time. Maybe the first PA has to live way out in the suburbs and her commute is an hour to an hour and a half each direction. So the transportation is eating into her day and eating into her time with her loved ones. Another area that can be more expensive in high cost of living places would be childcare. Having a nanny, having a babysitter, or if the kiddo goes to a daycare, any of those instances are very likely a lot more expensive in higher cost of living states or cities compared to lower cost of living ones. Now, PA number 2, who earns $130,000, initially can seem like she earns $20,000 less per year. And sure, on the surface, that's true. However, if her housing is less, her food and grocery costs are less, her gas is less when she's paying for transportation, her childcare is less, overall, PA number 2 might actually be getting ahead of PA number 1 financially. Remember, with your finances, it isn't the number that you earn. It's actually the number that you keep and the amount that you can invest. And that leads me to talk about your savings rate overall. Your savings rate is the amount that you can actually put towards working for you. That could go towards saving for your emergency fund if you don't have one. It could go towards paying off your debt. It could go towards your investment. It's the number of your salary that you are putting to work for you versus the rest of your income that is being taken away by things like taxes, living costs, entertainment, food, transportation, housing, all the other things that come up. So even the second PA earning $20,000 less, she might actually reach financial independence sooner if she's able to invest more over the course of her career. Now let's talk about some of the biggest mistakes that PAs make. Number 1 could be chasing the highest salary. They might be only locked in on that total salary number and not take into consideration cost of living. That's number 2, ignoring cost of living, right? So for example, maybe you see this really high number in exciting places like Alaska or California or New York City, and you've always wanted to live in a place like that, and you're excited to see that the income number is incredibly high for that salary. Well, if you don't take into consideration what your actual cost of living would be there, that number probably won't have the same purchasing power as you originally thought. Often, higher cost of living places have increased lifestyle inflation because everything is just more expensive. And it's usually not only housing. It trickles into so many other budget categories that you need to be mindful of. So besides looking at the total income, I do encourage you to try to figure out what your housing costs would be, what your transportation costs would be, even what groceries would be, what childcare would be. Try to think of those budget items that you have month to month. What would they be in that situation? Try to do your research. Reach out to PA friends or family members that you know who live in the area and ask them about that as well. So instead of only focusing on the total salary and the location, I encourage you to think about the cost of living for that location, what your schedule will be like. If you are in a place that has a high salary, will you have to work really long hours, be on call more, or will you be able to have a more flexible schedule? Maybe you can work fewer days per week and have a day off. Maybe you have a really short commute so that you are able to have a more flexible time with your life and do the things that you want to do. Have better self-care. Go to the gym. Have time with friends and family. Ask yourself, what is the burnout risk for that role? Are you able to do a shadowing interview to really assess that for yourself? Are you able to talk to other PAs or clinicians in that role and ask them what their burnout is like? And again, think about your long-term trajectory. What are the overall benefits with that role? Not just the salary, but what is the match like for your 401k? What is the CME reimbursement? Do they even offer an employer-sponsored retirement account? So remember, the best job for you probably is not the one that makes the most amount of money. It's truly the one that gives you more freedom, more flexibility, more breathing room, more bandwidth, whichever term you'd like to use. So what are some actionable steps that you can do right now, both to evaluate your current role as well as if you're considering moving for a different role? Number 1, get clarity on your current situation. What are your actual monthly expenses? Have you tracked what your costs are, what your monthly expenses are? I encourage you to track for at least 1 month to start, ideally 3 months. 6 months gives you even a better picture if you've never done this yet. Number 2, work on comparing your salary to what it would be in a different cost of living place, even though that salary looks higher and more tempting. Number 3, explore what is out there. Don't be in such a hurry to impulsively commit to a certain role just because the salary looks high. Look at other roles, stay curious, do networking, connect with other PAs, ask them lots of questions to find a role that would be good for you. And I always encourage you to think in terms of freedom. For example, time freedom. Which role would you have more time and more flexibility in your life? Think about which of these roles would actually get you to the point of financial freedom sooner, and potentially, would any of these roles allow for location freedom? Maybe it's a telemedicine role and you have the opportunity to work remotely. If this episode made you rethink what your overall thoughts are about salary, please share it with another PA. Help them out so that they can decide what's best for them as well. And if you haven't already, go ahead and go to the show notes or the description on YouTube and get your free copy of the PA the FI Way Beginner's Workbook so you can start your journey to financial independence today. Thanks so much for taking a listen or watching this episode, and I'll see you back here soon. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope that you decide to continue to join me along this journey of becoming a PA the FI Way. Please take a moment to press the subscribe button on the platform that you are listening to this on, but more importantly, consider sharing with another current or future PA that could benefit from the information that we reviewed in this episode. Take care and have a great rest of your day. Until next time.